The new look factory Yamaha, will that take Maverick Vinales or Valentino Rossi to glory in 2019? The first faller of 2019, unfortunately, Andrea Iannone on his outlap on the factory Aprilia. No harm done to the Italian and Ducati. Danilo Petrucci and Andrea Dovizioso trying to take Ducati back to the top of the World Championship. Good morning, a very warm welcome to you from Motogp HQ in Barcelona. Welcome to the first after the flag of the year. That means that Motogp is back for 2019. You've no idea how happy I am to say that. Joining me in the studio here in Barcelona over the next 90 minutes or so to run you through some exclusive news, reviews and reaction from the opening day of testing in Malaysia is my colleague Neil Morrison. On site we have our very own Simon Crowfar as well over in Malaysia to bring you some live interviews and some unique insight as well from the opening day of winter testing. 69 days since 2018 testing concluded in Jerez and we are back on track, and as we mentioned, what a start to the year for the reigning world champion Marc Marquez. All of those injury problems that he had throughout the winter. Of course, December the 4th, straight after that final test in Jerez, Marquez went under the surgeon's knife to have an operation on that left shoulder that kept dislocating during last season. Well, I'm happy to say Marc Marquez has returned to the track in some style. A 1:59.621 that Marc Marquez set earlier on today in scorching hot conditions, as always, in Malaysia, puts the world champion remarkably, even though he says he's only about, 70% fully fit, he is top of the timesheets, 2.5 tenths clear of Alex Rins. Neil, welcome to you. I'm happy to say you're looking very dapper in denim. Welcome to the Cowboy Club. Welcome to MotoGP 2019. Marc Marquez, he continues to amaze. What a performance.
Yeah, an incredible performance for Marquez. His first day back at the office. Some doctors were saying to him after he had had his surgery that it was going to take up to 4 months to recover from this aggressive surgery that he had in early December. But he's showing no signs of that affecting his speed so far today. Quickest with just under half an hour remaining of the first day of testing to go. I think he's got a quarter of a second ahead of Alex Rins. So, yeah, just... he's picked up where he left off, really. Yeah,
to put that into some kind of perspective, last year on day one in Sepang, the best time of the opening day was Dani Pedrosa, a 1:59.427. So the boys blowing off the cobwebs pretty quickly out there in Sepang, actually, because Marc Marquez only a couple of tenths slower than that, despite those injury problems. We will be hearing, actually, from the reigning world champion on the Repsol Honda very, very shortly. Marc Marquez did actually end the opening test very, very early. Quite understandable, as you'd imagine, given the fact that, as he said, coming into this Malaysia test, only 70% fully fit. We'll have much more on Marc Marquez. It's been a very good start to the year if you're a Spanish fan of MotoGP, because Alex Rins on the factory Suzuki, he's currently in second place, ahead of Maverick Vinales. That's Tower on the left-hand side of your screen. That is the live standings. We're 7 hours behind Malaysia time here in Barcelona. There's about 26 minutes of the opening day of action to go over there in Sepang. As we said, it's still Marquez, thanks to that 1:59.621 that does lead the way. Now, I'm told that we can cross live over to Malaysia now to speak for the first time in 2019 to Simon Crowfar. Always fascinating to hear as such. He's just popped up on our screens now. There he is, our very own cuddly Kiwi over in Kuala Lumpur. Happy New Year to you, Simon. Always great to see you. The first day of the first test of a new season. It's always full of excitement, full of anticipation. Marc Marquez, though, quickest, 1:59.621. I don't think a lot of people saw that one coming. What about you? Did you? Big surprise for you as well?
Yeah, because really, again, super impressive, because I don't think he's in a good shape at all, you know. He actually said that he could ride the bike. He's happy to be back on the bike, but he can't ride it how he normally can. Breaking into left-hand corners, he's struggling. You know, with shoulder strength, and I think super impressive. Hats off to him again, even to be able to set that sort of time. Also mentally, when you know you've got a shoulder that you can't afford to fall off on, to go out and do that, it's pretty cool. He did it sort of about 12:40, something like that, so really hot conditions that time of day. Just to go over what I've been talking about with riders, especially yesterday evening before they got on track, most of them are talking about what they've done preparation for, you know, during the off-season for today and the race in Qatar. But, you know, no matter how much cycling running, going to the gym, you do, riding dirt bikes, nothing prepares you, from my own experience, nothing prepares you for turning up at the first test, you know. It's much more tiring than you remembered because you're using new muscles, different, and the bikes are so fast trying to hang on to them. And also you add the Malaysian heat, it's tough. There'll be a few achy muscles, but for Mark to go out and do that on the first day with that shoulder, pretty impressive.
Simon, what has stood out to you in the first day of testing here at Sepang?
I would say the standout difference, you know how I love to wander up and down the pit lane and look at all the machines closely and see the visible changes. And to be fair, like there isn't any visible changes yet on some of the manufacturers. For example, the Suzuki, the Ducati and also the Yamaha, they look pretty much identical and pretty much the Aprilia as well. But all of the team managers, those team managers have told me they've got different engine specs they're testing, electronics, and but when you get to the KTM garage, they told me they've got new engine, electronics, swing arm, chassis, and then there's visible changes. You know, though the KTM guys have really been burning the midnight oil over winter. Apparently, I heard a whisper they freighted 17 tons of equipment for Sepang, the shakedown test, and these 3 days. And it's really impressive how hard they're super determined. And like on the bike, visibly, you can see they've now got the aero package that's like the Yamaha originally, you know, that is now, they were the first ones to have that wing, that shape, then the Honda now is that shape, now the KTM also. KTM have also got a tank, seat area, completely new exhaust systems, and all those other less visible changes. So they're the ones that really stand out. But the thing is, it's the first day, and riders really use the first day to get themselves up to speed before you change too much. So I would say over the next days we're going to see more new products.
Yeah, like you say, Simon, it looks like the KTM engineers back in Austria certainly have been burning the midnight oil. One factory we know that had to do that in the winter was Yamaha. They've got to be pretty pleased with the way that it started in 2019. Maverick Vinales is right now third quickest, and Valentino Rossi fifth fastest. You could argue that this is probably one of the most important tests that Yamaha have had for many, many years. What's the vibe down in Yamaha? Are they pretty satisfied with the way 2019 has kicked off?
Yes, I had a chat with Mayo Mirigali, the team manager, and he said he's really happy. He's really positive. Both riders are happy. He said they've still got some work to do. I think a race team, the work never finishes, you know. But he's happy that both riders are smiling and they've made progress from November. So he said they're going to fight all the way to Qatar to get it even closer. But yeah, you're right, it's a good start. To be fair though, they were already pretty competitive here at the race. So I think we're really going to know how good they are when we get to other tracks.
Simon, it's been 2 years now that Ducati has come quite close to winning the championship with Andrea Dovizioso. We know that their technical chief, Gigi Dall'Igna, likes to bring some surprises to tests like this. What have you seen done at the Ducati garage so far today?
No, that's the surprising thing for me so far, is there is no, those bikes look almost identical to the November test, you know. Ducati to me were the winners of the November test, you know, if you can put it like that, because they bought the most new things. But it looks like they're ahead of the game a bit. That's where they did it. The bike now to me looks the same, though David Tardozzi told me they've got, again, engine and electronic mods here that they've got to test. And he was the only team manager that said they've got a little surprise for Qatar as well. So I took from that it's visible, and I would say it's the new aero package that I've heard whispers of. But really, I think Ducati are already leading, so you know what I'm saying, leading the fight. So they're going well already. They've pretty much got the same bike as November so far. Got 2 days to go.
Yeah, many thanks, Simon. They don't call it sizzling Sepang for nothing. We can see how hot it is out there right now. So go and get yourself some much-needed shelter and shade, mate. And hopefully later on in this first half of the Flag of the Year, we'll catch up with you later. A few more of your fascinating insights, as always. But for the time being, Simon, thank you very much indeed.
See you soon.
Thanks, mate. Always great to hear the thoughts and observations of Simon Carafa. We'll come back now to, well, there's only really, Neil, one place we can start and kick off 2019. That incredible performance by Marc Marquez. Let's not forget a 1:59.621 around Malaysia when you are not at your peak physical condition. That is a seriously impressive lap time. Looking over Marc's winter, Neil, Steve, old habits dying hard there. It has not been easy. December the 4th, he had that major operation on that left shoulder. December the 11th, he started rehab. I've read stories where it was, I think, 5 hours a day he's been undergoing rehab, over 200 hours of physiotherapy. His physiotherapist, Carlos Garcia, actually on site daily at the moment, almost hourly, with Marc Marquez, continuing his treatment in Malaysia. Neil, it's been an arduous road back after Marc's World Championship last year. I mean, not only in terms of physically, but mentally, to put himself through that rehabilitation must have been really difficult.
Exactly, yeah. There's basically been no chance for a rest for Marc. He's come off a pretty bruising season. I think he had 23 crashes in 2018, 19 rounds. That all adds up, and we can't really recall how many dislocations there were of that left shoulder, but it clearly was in need of some serious surgery. You mentioned that he's been having around 5 hours of physio every day. I think he mentioned that basically he's had only 4 days off since his operation, and that was basically Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and ever since then he's been doing stuff like this, as you can see on our screens.
Yeah, we're just looking at some footage now of Marc Marquez's pretty intensive rehabilitation. That was his physio, actually, Carlos Garcia, who, as we said, has been giving Marc Marquez pretty much round-the-clock treatment to try and get himself as close to full fitness as he possibly can be when the new season kicks off, of course, on March the 10th in Qatar in just a few weeks' time. He wasn't back on two wheels, Neil, until very recently, January the 29th, I think. He just rode a small Honda production bike just to check exactly where the shoulder was. Now, jumping on a MotoGP bike, the Honda RC213V, it's 157 kilos, but it's chucking out nearly 300 horsepower, a completely different beast. He's going to be feeling it tonight, isn't he?
He certainly is. Yeah, it's going to be difficult for him. But I think Marc knows he set himself certain goals, not to do too much too soon. He's going into this test with a cautious mindset, and he knows that basically he can't crash. And we know that in the past that Marquez hasn't really come to races with that approach. So it'll be interesting to see how he approaches the first few races with that mindset, thinking if I crash, this could really put me back another few months in terms of my rehabilitation. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what he does.
Well, we did say that Marc Marquez at the start of the programme had returned to 2019, back in Sepang with a bang. Well, who better to hear than straight from the horse's mouth himself, and just how tough today was, and how